guys, I'm Gabby, and yeah, so Jonty said I'm a columnist for Youngstar, and I'm also the editor-in-chief of The Thing, which is an online magazine for young Filipinos. So okay, to start off, well, Jonty mentioned what a zine is essentially, but okay, so you guys are probably here because you want to make a zine, right? So yeah, so okay, so you want to make a zine. That is my first question. Okay, so yeah, your answers are probably yes, yes, or they can also be nope, ew, what? I don't even know what a zine is. But okay, so I'm here to tell you like probably how, because a lot of people think that they can't make zines because first of all, they're not creative. So yeah, the first like hurdle that people face when they're thinking of doing something creative is, oh, I'm not a creative person, or I'm like not artsy, so how am I going to start? So yeah, but the good news is, oh wait, first of all, yeah, like never mind. The good news is that anyone can make a zine, and yeah, so because zines are for self-expression, and I mean anyone can make a zine basically. And okay, so first of all, what is a zine? Like, what is the main definition of a zine? And a zine is basically a small circulation, self-published work of original or appropriate text and images usually reproduced via photocopier. So the key words here are self-published, meaning that it's all up to you. You will be making your own publication, and yeah, so you are in charge of what will go in it. And so it's a small circulation work. So that means it's not going to be widely published and sold in bookstores or whatever, because you control it. You can choose to sell it, or you can essentially do whatever you want with your zine. Okay, so with zines you have the freedom to do whatever you want. Again, as I said a while ago, zines, like, you can put whatever you want in your zines. Okay, so first of all, what your question right now might be, because you have your materials with you, but so you would say, where do I start? What do I do? Like, what topics can I put in my zine? Or I don't know, I have no idea what to do. So yeah, we're gonna help you with a few tips. Okay, so yeah, so here are a couple of suggestions for what you can do when you want to make a zine. You don't have to follow them to the T. Like, you can basically like switch them up if you want. But one of the important steps is that if you decide that if you want to collaborate with others. So you might have a lot of friends who are interested in zines in whatever you want to write about in your zine, or whatever you want to put in your zine, and you can all get together and collaborate on them. And yeah, and then the next step would be to pick a theme. So I'll go into that later, but it's basically what you want your zine to be about. And then choose the format. Do you want it to be visual? Do you want it to be full of poetry? Do you want it to be full of pictures or illustrations? And then the next step would be to go on and make your content. So I'm going to go into the theme now. So okay, first of all, when you pick a topic, you have to make sure that you can generate enough content to fill the zine. So it might sound like hard because there are so many possible topics, or you have so many interests. So one of the best places, I think, to draw inspiration is through obsession, or like what you're interested in. So what is it that you're obsessed with, or what are you interested in? Like, is there something that you feel the need to share with people? Or so you can channel all of that into a zine. And so it can be anything from big issues or big topics, like, I don't know, it can be about politics if you want to go heavy, or it can be about anything creative, like, for example, I don't know, a poet. You can write your poetry or whatever, but you can also be super random or shallow. Like you can talk about what's that? You can talk about, for example, you can make a fanzine about tapa, or you can make a zine about how much you love a certain show. Like I love Gilmore Girls, and I'm going to make a zine about it. Or it can be like a list of trash young adult novel titles. So it can be about anything. And and okay. So the next step would be to come up with the content once you've chosen your topic. So content can include anything from poems, short essays, playlists, listicles, comics, illustrations, or the like. So I'm going to show you a few samples that I have made. So this first example is called Crush Crush Crash. It was a zine that I made with a thing in collaboration with Satchme, the store. It was for their Feels event in their store in SM Mega Mall. And what we did, my team for the thing, what we did was we came up with it was kind of a bitter sounding Valentine's zine. And yeah, so the content, so it had the content, yeah, sorry. So the first one, you can't see it, but it's a playlist so it's a playlist called Distance Sucks. So it was a bunch of bitter or sad songs that were picked out by BP Valenzuela, one of our, she's a musician and one of our contributors. So basically, a lot of the people who contributed to our zines were contributors of the online magazine that we have. So yeah, that's what we wanted to be able to share their work. And the next one was you also can't see it, but it's a bunch of haikus by Reese Lansangan, also a musician, and a comic by Mitch. So that was what was in our zine. So Mitch is here. And our next zine was called Revivals. So it was also for Satchme. It was for their Vinyl Day event. So this zine was more of a throwback, and it was a throwback to because of vinyl. Yeah. So it was Vinyl Day. So we had a bunch of articles and playlists again about throwing it back to the times. But yeah, so here, that's our table of contents page. What we had there was, again, a playlist and a poem. So the playlist was by Reese and Sangan again, and then the poem was by one of our contributors, Danny Pua. As you can see, it had a more handmade feel to it. What we did was we did more cut and paste, and we wrote we hand wrote it, and yeah, so that was basically the content. And we also had articles in this one. Yeah, you can read it also, but the first one, so these were short essays from our contributors that they were personal essays. The first one was about the contributors' experience with vinyl records, and the next one was about Nancy Drew. So yeah, basically that's what you can put in a zine. You can put essays, playlists, comics, and others. But another method that you can use, because that's the more formal method, what I showed you is more formal, but what you can do also is to just wing it, like what you're going to do today. You can just, basically what you can do is you can just cut and paste all the pictures and onto your base zine. We'll show you how to make it later. And yeah, just have fun with it. And you can eventually discover, there might not be a theme at the start, but then in the end you might see that, oh, I think that I've come onto something, and there's an overall theme to this whole zine, and you can just label it as art. so that's basically how you make a zine. And yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Thank you.
Hello, for those who came in late, feel free to grab a seat closer so you can participate in our workshop later on. Cool. Cool. Okay. Thank you so much, Gabby, for enlightening us on how to outline your zine. I'm sure everyone here got a glimpse of some pretty great ideas to start with. Moving on, since we're slowly gathering skills for our zine making for later, let's sharpen our minds on how to illustrate and add visual texture to a zine. Our next speaker is an illustrator and comic artist who's currently finishing a degree in animation. She says that while she isn't working on her thesis, she's making weird zines. Everyone, please give it up for Mitch Cervantes.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Mitch. I'm also a contributor for Youngstar, and while I'm not freelancing, I'm a student and I animate a lot of stuff, and I also draw and make zines. So I'm gonna talk to you guys about how to add more of how to make your visuals carry your message when you make a zine, basically. So, okay, next. Marga. Okay, so what is a zine? So John T. and Gabby discussed that earlier. Basically, there's no one way to make a zine, or there's no one solid physical definition of it, but next. Basically, it's a self-published piece of work. It's usually printed in a limited run, and it's often reproduced as booklets. So, like what Gabby said earlier, it's usually reproduced by photocopying, and actually it's not just limited to physical zines. Zines can also be digital, like Gabby's, The Thing, and Main's Stash. So yeah, next. Oh, you skipped one, sorry. So what are the rules of making a zine? There are none, basically. So you can make a zine about drawing, or like just full of illustrations. You can also just make it about like written work, or you can also make comics like what I do. There are no rules and there's no one way to make a zine, basically. So feel free to do whatever you want when you make a zine. Next. The central element of zine making is basically DIY, because it adds a very personal touch to everything you make. So even though like for example, you make a zine by hand and then you reproduce it, there's still like a personal touch to it, because like from conceptualization all the way to distribution, you're the one who's handling it most of the time. You don't, it's usually like the people who make the zines who actually distribute them. Like, that's what I love about zine events or conventions, because like you're usually the one who is selling your material. So you get to reach your fans and your audience. You sort of get this reachability that you wouldn't achieve if your work was only displayed in like a bookstore, for example. So there's a very personal aspect to zine making, and that's what I really like about it. You have full control over what you make, and you can also, well, you're more attached to your work, basically. Okay, so possible themes for your zine. Like what I said earlier, there's no like fixed theme or way to make a zine. Basically, there's no limits to what you can make. So these are like some common themes that zines typically have. Usually they deal with topics too controversial or niche for mainstream media. So yeah, you can basically like say anything you want in a zine, and that's what I really like about zines. There's no censorship, there's nobody like controlling what you're saying, and you can freely distribute it on your own in any zine events or conventions. So yeah, I like zines a lot. So there, it's all in your hands, from conceptualization all the way to distribution. It's a labor of love, and it's an art form that's fueled by a lot of passion, and also like it has a very, very personal aspect to it. So yeah. So you can make zines that just deal with like written form, but then like good visuals really can carry whatever message you're trying to convey, and if your zine has good visuals, your message is going to get across a lot clearer and everything. So, yeah. What a well-crafted zine can do. So I'm just gonna talk about a few things that you can achieve with like the perfect balance of visual and written or narrative, yeah, elements. So there. One, zines are supposed to give you a voice. So next, you can tell your story with a zine. I keep saying this, but like you can really say anything you want with the zines you make. So I'm just gonna give some examples of zines that I really like and zines that I feel really tell a story. Next. This one zine is by a friend named Mika. Cupcakes Are Stupid, that's what it's called. It's basically like, it's like comics and it's sort of like a diary. Like she just writes about whatever happens to her. Next. So here's one of my favorite pages. A short list of men who sexually harassed me on commutes from school. See, it's like, it's something that like happens to her every day and then she just puts it, she basically puts it in a really creative way and then she just reproduces it and sells it at conventions also. So here's another one I really like that I chanced upon during Comic-Con this year, Summer Comic-Con I think, called Congratulations You're a Girl by a girl named Jess Guanco. Next. Basically, it's a really nice little comic about how, basically what girls have to deal with when they grow up and stuff. So here are a few pages from it. Yeah, here are some of my favorites also, called Boobies and Womenstruation by Zell, a friend. They're two small zines, basically just all about boobs and vaginas. It's pretty cool. Wait, next page. I really like her art style here because she doesn't like sugarcoat anything that she draws. Her art style is very realistic. It really captures what boobs and vaginas look like. Like she wants to try to normalize the way they actually look to people and like, yeah, she's a feminist zine maker, so. Next. Okay, so visual art really has the capacity to be honest. It has the capacity to really carry your message if you do it right and if you pull it off. Like the first two examples I showed, Mika's work and Jess's work, they chose simple drawings. They chose comics as their method of delivering their message, which is a kind of sequential art. So they made sure that their message was clearly delivered with their art styles, and also they didn't want their art styles to be too intimidating, so they made it clear and simple. And yung third example naman, yung zines ni Zell, yeah, basically, she didn't sugarcoat any of our body parts, so pretty honest. Next, okay. So another thing zines have the power to do is to question existing power structures, or like basically offer a unique kind of commentary to what's happening in society. Here's a really pretty example that I like. Oh wait, sige. Yeah, basically say what's necessary and make it count. Since no one's controlling what you're writing, or you're basically the one who is controlling what you're distributing and what you're saying, might as well make it count, or might as well say something that matters. So here's a nice example. What Good is a Good by Job Aloha and Daniel Rina. Next. It's basically a zine, it's not clear, but then it's basically a zine about consumerism and how people sort of just buy stuff all the time. So Job, I think, was the writer. So he wrote a poem, and then Danny drew the pictures and stuff. I really like her art style here. Next. Yeah, I really like her art style here because she chose really simple shapes. She has very bold lines and stuff, and she only chose the color yellow to accent it with. And yeah, I really like how the zine reads, basically. I have it here, and I'll distribute it later when you guys start doing your zines so that you have inspiration. I like the zine a lot because it reads kind of like a children's book. Like, the words aren't hard to understand. It's all very simple. And the layout is like words and then drawing. And it's just that for the rest of the zine. So it reads like a children's book, meaning children can actually read it. And I like that it has such a meaningful message, and also it's pretty accessible to kids. So next. So 3, aesthetically, zines can also challenge form and presentation. So you're not limited to like a few stapled pieces of paper or anything. Like, you can go beyond that. Next. You oversee the production, so you can experiment with your form. You can play with like all sorts of materials or all sorts of ways to reproduce your zine and stuff. Because like, yeah, again, you oversee production, so you're the one behind all the technicalities of like reproduction. So yeah, you can basically experiment with the form and everything. Next, okay. Here's one of my favorite zines called Ping Pong by, I think she's a Portuguese zine maker, Amanda Baeza, and Cams Dagal, who is a Filipina zine maker. Next. Basically, their zine is just, it's like Cams draws one thing and then Amanda draws something over it, and then it tells a story. Next one. So yeah, it just goes on, and then yeah, they just keep back and forthing their drawings until they come up with a visual narrative, and yeah, it's really interesting. It's really nice. Yeah. Here's my favorite zine ever. It's called Mail Order Vanishings by a local zine artist named Eva Yu. Basically, she creates this whole fictional company that you can mail, and like, they can orchestrate your disappearance or your death or whatever. It's really cool. It sounds morbid, but it's cool. Next. Okay. Next. Yeah, so there's a page from the zine. Next. Marga. It even comes with an order form. See, it's really cool. Next. So yeah, these are 3 ideas of so many that you can come up with when you make your zines. So yeah, I just showed you a bunch of zines so that you could get visual inspiration when you make yours later. So yeah, okay, next. If you're interested in like seeing my work or anything, here's my details. So yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, hi everyone, how are you? Okay, so I'm going to be talking about laying out your content. So once you have your theme, and then you have your written materials, and then you have your art, what are you going to do with it? You're going to lay it out. So, Marga, so what is it for? It's for better readability. You can present your content more creatively, and then it will help you stand out with the rest. Like, for example, Mitch mentioned that there's no one format when making a zine. So you can have like your normal magazine type, and then you can have inserts, you can have, I don't know, free shampoo packets to support your comic or something. So zine making doesn't have any rules with it. Next. So what makes up a page? I think a lot of you are familiar with it since I'm sure you guys read magazines. So of course, for a spread, that's like one thing. When you open a magazine, that's a spread. So one spread, it has your body text, which is essential basically because that's your content. And Marga, can you go back? So for example, if you feel like your body text is too like intense, it's too wordy, you can break it up with a pull quote. Yeah, so if ever you have like quotable quotes or hugot lines that you wanna highlight, you can do a breaker in between your text. And then, next. Marga. Oh, of course, medyo hindi clear, but that's basically the byline, kung saan nakalagay yung like who the author is and who made the art. And then next, you have your subhead, which is basically the summary, like a 2-sentence summary of what your article is about. And then, of course, you have the title. So for this article, it's called Why I Love One Direction. Who loves One Direction? No one. No one. And then, sorry? And then, of course, you need your visual. Like what Mitch said, you have to like support it with nice visuals to make it, you know, more creative, stand out, and of course, to help people understand what the article is about. Like, for example, for Young Star, if ever we have articles that get turned over within the day, I make the art for it. So it will help people understand what the article is about. And then, actually, that article came out in our Stash August 2013 issue. So that's exactly 3 years ago. And kind of weird, no? Like, it's the National on the cover, and then we wrote about One Direction. Like, they're basically in the same genre. Anyway, is there a right way to lay out a zine? As I mentioned, wala. Next. So you can either use a grid or just wing it. Like, grids are more formal graphic design, like, jargon. So, like, for example, my One Direction layout, I used 2 columns. Next. So, 2 columns siya. I can pattern it. Parang Unblock Me or Tetris. Like, you set how many columns you want for each page, and then you just fit your text there. It's just a guide to make it look more organized. But again, this is just a more formal way of laying out your articles. But the more fun way to do it is to just wing it. Next. So for example, this one. This is a zine I made for Sunday paper. It's called Summers and Septembers, and this is actually one spread na. So the left side is just a big collage with scribbles in it, and then on the right side, parang may scan of a script from the Royal Tenenbaums. So it's very free form, very multimedia, because you have like text and then you have images. And then next. And this one is from Stash, April 2015. This is actually by Ellie Centeno. She wrote a story about her trip in New York. And like with this, there's no like visible grid. Like, oh yeah, okay, next, better representation. Okay, so sa right side, you really can't pinpoint like where the grid ends and starts. So it's just a free flowing layout. So you have to look at your zine like you're reading it for the first time. Like if you're the reader, how can you understand your content better? Like, do you want to highlight the specific image because this is the king of the story, or do you want to highlight a certain phrase because the story really doesn't work without that certain code? So parang just feel it out. Look at your zine from your reader's perspective, and I think it will work really well. Or just do it for fun, like whatever goes, it's fine. And don't be afraid to experiment. Like, the magic of zines is it's very personal, and you really can't just make one ultimate zine that will define who you are. So you can make zines for your different interests, and that's okay. And maybe make a compilation or a collection or an anthology that you can sell in like 10 years when you're rich and famous. Yun. So parang, it's really free-flowing. Next. Oh, okay. So, back. So that's it. If you do you have any questions, maybe I can call Gabby and Mitch to join me here. Yeah, before we make the zines, do you have any questions? Oh no, I am gonna sit.
Okay, so that was the end pala of Main's thing. Let's give her a hand. So if anyone who has questions, just raise your hand. Wow, okay. Like there.
Okay, hi. Can you give us your name and where you're studying? Introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Carl Cervantes. I graduated from the Ateneo last year. You mentioned kanina about zine events, and I'm very curious about where I could find these zine events. I also have a copy of yung Disappearings,
Yeah.
the Disappearings zine.
Ganda nun.
It's amazing. Sobrang ganda nung ano yun. Yeah.
Hello? Okay, there. Hi. So, zine events, marami. There's Comic-Con, Comic-Cat, Indie-Cat, all the comics ones. And then there's, actually the girl who did that zine, si Eva,
Yeah.
she also organizes this event called Loca Loca at Cubao Expo. Do you know where that is?
Yeah. That's where I bought it.
Yeah. She actually also has a zine library there if you guys want to visit it. It's called, I think it's Studio Soup. Yun ba yun? Yeah, Studio Soup Zine Library. It's in Cubao Expo. You can like go there and you can see a bunch of zines and stuff. So yeah, the next Loca Loca I think is soon, October 1 at that. But you can go to their Facebook page, Local Loca, local space, tapos local without the L at the end. Yeah. So there's a lot more pa. But yeah, you can start with those.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Question.
Wala pa.
Anyone with a question? Anyone not reading their magazine yet? Okay, I have a question for you guys. If you were to make a zine just using bond paper without like staples or anything, how would you fold it?
That's the next slide.
Okay, great.
We're actually gonna teach you later. Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna
Do you-
teach
do you
them
wanna teach-
while they're making it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or after the Q&A.
Okay. Anyone with a question?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, you first and then you. Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mars. Hello. My question is, when you do like a collaborative zine, how do you get people on board?
You guys should answer that.
Okay. Okay, me first and then Gabby. Actually, my only experience with making zines with a lot of people in it was from Stash way back in 2010. So I just gathered like a bunch of people on Tumblr with a common interest, and then I asked them, hey, do you want to make a magazine? And they said, yeah. And then we made it. So it's just basically like a call out. Just ask common friends. Like I only know one, actually two, like from high school, who is Karen De La Fuente at Rocket on Instagram. She was one of the first people in Stash. So parang just common close friends and then internet friends who share the same passion. And then make it. Yeah. Gabby?
Okay, I would, well, for the thing, because we have a pool of contributors, and the way we get some of them is we kind of stalk them on Instagram, and we just message them and say, oh, would you be interested to contribute to us? And then because we love your work and so, and you know, and stuff like that. So it's really, most people are actually very willing to do something creative. I don't know if well, people are basically, and it's really cool how people are so into creating. And if you just ask, people will say yes, I think, usually. I hope.
Sure. Thanks. Next question.
Hi, my name is Claire, and I'm in Dalisay University. I'm from Dalisay University. So my question is, how much do you guys shell out for your zines, and how do you decide how many to make, and what's your conceptualization process behind your work? Hello?
So me, I reproduce a lot of my zines physically because I sell a lot in conventions. So usually I start with maybe a run of 50 to 75 copies, and that usually costs me maybe 3,000, I think. I don't know. It depends on the printing shop you go to, but like I go to a cheap one, so it's okay. Um, and then if it's received well, and then you plan on selling and reproducing it for other conventions, I usually produce the same amount like per con. Like if it sells out in the first one, then I make a new batch for the second. If not, I usually take what's left of the first batch and then print less for the next one. And yeah. What was your other question? Sorry.
What's your conceptualization process?
Oh. You guys can answer that. Oh.
So maybe dudugtungan ko lang yung sinabi ni Mitch about distribution and how much you shell out. Because for Stash, it's an online magazine, so not all zines require a lot of money. Like sometimes you can just publish it online. Like there's one website called issuu.com, issuu.com, where you can upload like a PDF and then it will transform it magically into like a flippable magazine. So for that, like printing cost wala, but then if your friends ask for compensation, then you have to pay them. If ever it's a collaborative zine. But as she mentioned, it won't really take a lot of money since usually...
Also, if you've noticed, like a lot of zines and comics, local zines and comics, they're all printed in black and white for a reason, because colored printing is really expensive. But yeah, I mean, it still works that way. And yeah.
Another way, I mean, in terms of distribution, you can, like what we did, we partnered with a store or like a brand, and we distributed it at their event. So you can like maybe get an X deal somehow, in terms of distribution. And I mean, like you can do the widespread distribution thing if you really want your message to get out there, I guess. So yeah, that's another way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some stores also they started selling zines, local zines and comics. Like I think Satchme in Mega Mall already sells local comics. So yeah, I mean distribution wise, there's some stores that you can talk to about it.
We have time for maybe one or two more questions. Hi.
Okay, hi, I'm Zaya Asis. We're from the Lasallian, and I just wanted to ask, how do you like start out in making your zine, especially like in a school setting? How do you engage with your readers in when parang you have this zine that you want to introduce to the school?
School?
Or a specific audience?
Oh, an audience, okay. I started self-publishing in 2014. I was first year college, I think. And I started it because well, I've been going to Comic-Con for a while and stuff, and then I guess I just wanted to try it out because like I saw na there was actually a pretty solid scene going on here, and I just wanted to try it. Like I mean, I like to draw comics and stuff, so why not try to sell it? So I sold for the first time at Summer Comic Con, and it was received okay naman. I mean, well, I guess, but yeah, I don't print that anymore because it's really embarrassing. But yeah, basically, you really just have to. It really helps to know people in whatever scene you're trying to get into. For me naman, it was. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rob Cham. He's a pretty prolific comic artist here. We met on Tumblr when I was like 16, and then we just like, I think we met in person when I was in high school pa. So we became really close friends after that, and he helps me out like when I need kasama for a table in Comic-Con. I talk to him, and like I meet a lot of my close friends sa comic scene I met through him. So yeah, it really helps when you have like that one person to start you off or to get to help you get started with your stuff. So yeah.
Social media, of course. That's one of the, well, for the thing, we were able to reach our audience by Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, like promos, posters, and stuff. And yeah, so that's really important, especially since you don't want to shell out money for people to know what you're using.
I think that guy has a question.
Oh, hi, you have a question? Are you sure you have one? Okay.
How can I say this? Just a broad question. Because nowadays there are several magazines that we used to read. Like there's a business magazine, technology magazine, and even comics. So if we're going to make our works, any of our works, the most trendy, how are you based on your experience, how are you going to make it the most trendy? To make one of our work most trendy. Just like Aldab.
Wait, so parang paano?
How
How
to
can you
make
make
it
it
trendy, like current,
popular?
current,
or?
yeah,
Okay.
or trendy, trending. I don't know.
Well, because trendy kind of means that you want to fit with a certain trend, or like you want to go with whatever's popular at the moment. Is that your definition of?
By definition of trendy, like the Steve Jobs trendy, like we turned it into the most trendy of the trendies.
Or like innovative
Yes.
or something.
Basically, he's asking how you set a trend with making a zine.
Oh.
Not a ride a trend.
Well,
Okay.
well, it might come. I think it'll just come eventually if you keep doing what you want to keep doing. Like you keep doing you, you know, that kind of thing. It's not, you don't do it on purpose. I think that it just comes. Like it just happens, and you end up being trendy because people like what you're doing. It's not that you go into it wanting to be trendy.
I guess the only way to be trendy or to stand out is to create innovations. Like a lot of magazines have publishers backing them, and of course with that they have like a certain control over what goes on. But since it's your own magazine, you have control, you have like the freedom, as they mentioned before, to do whatever you want to do. Like for example, you're gonna make an online zine just full of QR codes, the one you scan on your Android phone, and then like it loads something on Safari. Like it's just full of that. It's so different. I don't think I've seen anything like that before. So if that, like if the word gets out and then people get to know about na, oh, there's a zine na puro codes lang, I don't even understand it. Like it's like a good representation of printed work and then digital coming together, mga ganon. I think it's a good way of standing out from your typical magazines that you see in bookstores. So just innovate and create an experiment. I think you'll get there eventually.
If there are no more questions, we can start our workshop. None?
None?
If you guys have, you can just ask them while
Yeah.
you're making, no?
Okay, so
Cool.
can you click the PowerPoint?